Tech team, are we live?
Not yet, Mr. Chair. They'll let you know. They'll read the statement.
The broadcast of the special meeting of the Charter Commission will now begin.
Good evening. Welcome to this live broadcast of our virtual Charter Commission meeting. This meeting includes remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. My name is Barry Clegg and I am the chair of the Charter Commission. I'll now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Abbott.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
Commissioner Ginder.
Present.
Commissioner Jarrell Isaacson.
Here.
Commissioner Kozak.
Here.
Commissioner Lickness. Commissioner Medke.
Here.
Commissioner Newborn.
Here.
Commissioner Perry.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein. Commissioner Sandberg.
Present.
Commissioner Schwarzkopf.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Lickness. Commissioner Rubenstein. Chair Clegg.
Here.
There are 12 present and 3 absent.
We have a quorum. We'll now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Before we adopt the agenda, I propose that we put some limits on tonight's public hearing. We have 53 individuals who were signed up to speak at the second public hearing, but were unable to speak due to time constraints. I suggest that, consistent with prior public hearings, we limit tonight's public hearings to 1 minute per speaker. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda with those parameters.
Motion Sandberg. Second, Abbott.
We have a proper motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Abbott.
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder.
Aye.
Commissioner Jarrell Isaacson.
Aye.
Commissioner Kozak.
Aye.
Commissioner Lickness. Commissioner Medke.
Aye.
Commissioner Newborn.
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Commissioner Rubenstein. Commissioner Sandberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Schwarzkopf.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Lickness. Commissioner Rubenstein. Chair Clegg.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes and 3 absent.
That motion carries. We have an agenda. Next is the chair's report, and I have nothing to report tonight that's not already on the agenda. So we'll proceed to the main item on our agenda, which is our final public hearing on the City Council's proposed charter amendment related to community safety and violence prevention. I will note again for the public that 53 individuals had signed up for the prior public hearing, but were unable to speak due to time constraints. There are just a few ground rules that are consistent with prior public hearings. First, each speaker will have 1 minute, which will be managed by the clerk. If any speaker exceeds their 1 minute limit, I will kindly let you know your time is up and we'll move on to the next speaker. I will also ask those that are testifying tonight to avoid repetition in your comments. If you are in support of other, please mute your phone. If you are in support of other comments already made but have nothing new to add, you may simply indicate that you support or you oppose the proposed amendment. When I do call on you, please tell us what neighborhood you live in and the nearest street intersection. We've had callers from out of the city. Callers from out of the city are allowed. We welcome testimony from everybody, but it's important to identify yourself and confirm that you live within the city of Minneapolis. I also have a request for those that have called into tonight's meeting to help our staff manage the people that would like to speak. We encourage everyone who is not waiting to speak to leave the call and to monitor the meeting either online or on TV. I will remind you that the meeting can be watched on Comcast channels 14 or 799, CenturyLink channels 8001 or 8501. Also, it's live streamed on the city's website at minneapolismn.gov/counciltv or from the city's YouTube channel at youtube.com/City of Minneapolis. For those who do plan to speak, I encourage you to leave the call after you've completed your comments and to monitor the remainder of the meeting via one of the other methods if that's possible for you. If you're constrained by time and 1 minute is not enough, you can also submit written comments to councilcomment@minneapolismn.gov. Again, that's councilcomment@minneapolismn.gov. We do read all of those comments that are submitted, and your comments will be incorporated into the record. I will now open the public hearing to receive public comment on the City Council's proposed amendment relating to community safety and violence prevention. We will call on speakers by name from the order on the speakers on the list. The list has been shared with all speakers who signed up. When you hear your name called, please press *6 to unmute your phone. And this is important. Please wait for a message that says you've been unmuted. And when that message is done playing, then identify yourself and the area where you live before making your comments. But please wait for that message to end before you start talking, or it sounds like you've been cut off. Our first speaker tonight is Ruth Usum.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Please
Hello.
go ahead.
All right. I missed the first part of your directive. So what is my charge here? What am I doing?
You have 1 minute to speak, and you should tell us whether you support or oppose the proposed amendment and why.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank the council and the Charter Commission for the work that they have done on this. I am opposed to the amendment, and I oppose it for a number of reasons. I think that this is a rushed situation, and I so far have not heard a clear message about what would result from the change to the charter. There's no plan for how safety will be addressed under the proposals at this point in time, and the voters will have limited basis upon which to cast an informed vote. And then we know that there are two problematic elements based on the language that the council submitted. One is the accountability for oversight that would be muddled by putting the council in charge with the mayor.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all the time we have. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The next speaker is Jane Lee Rodriguez. Jane Lee or Janelle Rodriguez. Okay, the next speaker is Will Roberts.
Hi, this is Will Roberts, current resident of Ward 9, just 34th and Minnehaha.
Go ahead, we hear you.
All right. I am a child of South Minneapolis, and I am proud to support putting the amendments from the City Council on the ballot this November. I believe that Minneapolis has the capacity to be a much more just city than it is, and to become the great city that we believe it to be, often erroneously. It is ironic that at the last meeting, one neighbor said that this was a result of about half the city forcing their agenda on the other half, when in fact that is the problem that this amendment is designed to combat. Currently, half the city is violently forcing an order on the other half of the city that is not just. And this is a first and necessary step to change that. So I thank the committee for holding this extra hearing for more people's voice to be heard, and that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Eric Anderson.
Hello?
Hello?
Eric Anderson.
Hi, my name is Eric Anderson, and I live in Erickson neighborhood near 46th Street and 34th. I support amending the city charter. I moved here for work nearly 10 years ago, fell in love with the city, and bought a home in South Minneapolis. I have felt safe and welcomed in Minneapolis, and have been dismayed to learn that not all of my neighbors and friends are able to feel the same way. It isn't right that residents of the same city should have such drastically different experiences with the police. It is clear that reforms have not been effective. Had they been, George Floyd and so many others would still be alive. We need and deserve a public safety system that truly serves and protects everyone. The first step towards building that is simply amending the charter. So commissioners, I urge you, do not delay democracy. Let us vote on the charter amendment as written by our elected city council this November. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Don Samuels. Don Samuels. The next speaker is James Riley. James Riley. The next speaker is Charles Carter. Charles Carter. The next speaker is Jacob Boucher or Boucher. Jacob Boucher or Boucher, B-O-U-C-H-E-R. The next speaker is Alex Dansberger. Alex Dansberger. The next speaker is Eric Barstad.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Barstad here from the East Isles neighborhood of Minneapolis. 24th and Girard Avenue South is the nearest intersection. I'm calling to add my voice to the chorus of people urging you to let us vote on this proposed amendment this November. I want to note that, let's be real, you commissioners are appointed as part of an opaque and fairly shallow process that the chief judge of the Hennepin County Court, who's responsible for appointing you all, himself has criticized. In 2010, he told the Star Tribune that it's not a good process and that he doesn't get any information about whether someone's a good commissioner or a bad commissioner, yada, yada, yada. So with that background, I urge you to have some modesty with respect to your institutional prerogatives and your own personal capacities, and defer to the collective judgment and wisdom of the people in this regard. If it's an unsound proposal, we'll vote it down in November. But we need to have that conversation. We need to be able to go down this peaceful avenue for change.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nick Chichowitz.
Hi, this is Nick Chichowitz from Ward 12. First, I want to thank the Charter Commission for its work. The Charter Commission must take as much time as necessary to allow for substantial and robust community engagement to occur, even if this takes us past the August 5th deadline. I, along with many Minneapolisans, want to see transformational and significant changes to the way in which our city handles public safety. Minneapolis has a unique opportunity as the epicenter of calls for change to take the lead on this important work. Sadly, I believe recent action by our city council will cause much of this momentum to be stalled and potentially stopped, something I know Minneapolisans don't want to see happen. My core issue with the proposed amendment now before the Charter Commission is about timeline. The timeline is entirely too short to have a broad, open discussion in the city. Does this timeline demonstrate a want by our city council to have a vibrant and diverse discussion about policing in Minneapolis? I don't think so. I'm asking the Charter Commission to not rush its work and to take all the necessary time it needs to craft language that represents the views of all Minneapolisans.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Shannon Puchner. Shannon Puchner. The next speaker is Valentina McKenzie. Valentina McKenzie. The next speaker is Jaslyn Warren. Jaslyn Warren. The next speaker is Catherine Jawani. Catherine Jawani. The next speaker is Shane Orthman. Shane Orthman. The next speaker is Zachary Fisher. Zachary Fisher. The next speaker is Amy Marsicano. Amy Marsicano. The next speaker is Gabriel Giroux. Gabriel Giroux. The next speaker is Jess Garner.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Jess Garner, and I live in the Kingsfield neighborhood near 42nd and Blaisdell. I do not support the amendment as written. I 100% support defunding and community control efforts, but they will only work if the community most negatively impacted by police brutality is an integral part of the solutioning. The language as it stands is vague and lacks input from BIPOC community leaders. Let's do the real work and research to understand what will work for everyone in our community, and we must get input, especially from Northside residents and community leaders like Nikema Levy-Armstrong and Raisha Williams, who have repeatedly voiced their concern that decisions are being made about them without them. Chief Arredondo is also an integral piece to this process, and he deserves all of our respect and support to be included in solving the problem. If we want real change, we cannot rush the process. The City Council has had many years to act and have now imposed an artificially rushed deadline. I urge you to take the time for robust discussion and decisioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anders Matson. Anders Matson. Our next speaker is Oluchi Omega or Omoga.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just
Hi,
wanted to first of all tell you.
I'm sorry, who is this?
My name is Oluchi.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to first of all tell you that you said my name perfect, which is wild because I know you and I know you're white, which is great. Whatever. But also, yeah. So my name is Oluchi. I live in the Powderhorn neighborhood. I'm not gonna give my address, but I do live by Matt's Bar. Sorry, I have to pull up my notes because I wanted to get everything down. So do not deduct this from my time. But I wanted to say that I was listening to the working group meeting that y'all had earlier. I'm going to have some thoughts around it. Commissioner Isaacson said this very eloquently in the meeting, that as a person of color that is also part of the LGBT community, that we are constantly told that we have to wait. As a Black queer person, I deeply resonate. And Commissioner Isaacson, I really appreciate and wanted to appreciate the vulnerability that you had in that time, and that the time that you've had to reflect and think about like the actions that led to that point. Black folks like myself have been told too many times that we need to wait. And what happens is that another one of us is terrorized by the same people that we pay to keep us safe. We are killed by the same people that we are told that are going to keep us safe. So you've been hearing time and time again that the people want to vote, that we want to vote. We know that reform has not worked. And we know that if we go down this road before, like we did before, another brutal murder is going to happen. So please vote for this charter amendment.
Thank you. The next speaker is Zephyr Sheedy. Zephyr Sheedy. The next speaker is Tony Scallon. Tony Scallon.
Okay, I'm Tony Scallon. I live in the Longfellow neighborhood where we're seeing an increase in crime. One of the things I'm concerned about has been almost a mobocracy of people taking over hearings. And that's okay, but it's the job of the commissioners to sort out all these things. I'm not for putting this on the ballot, and I have to say it, with 9 of the council members already saying they're going to defund the police, putting it on the ballot gives them extra ability to do this. Anyway, I really appreciate giving us all time to speak.
Thank you. The next speaker is Wyatt Miller. Wyatt Miller. Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth Antrim Cashin.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tess Antrim Cashin, residing in Lowry Hill East near Cub Foods. Thank you for volunteering your time. I want to applaud the City Council for a proposal that reframes policing as a single component of holistic community safety. I think in a short time, they've created a clean, intelligent, and flexible proposal that organically creates a transition from existing structure. If the Commission's proposal is also on the ballot, I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with as a citizen is pushing this back 16 months. I looked at 3 other city charters with either comparable crime rates or comparable populations. I didn't find a minimum staffing requirement in any of them. It feels to me like you are politicking as non-elected officials in a democratic process. It feels immoral. Commissioner Perry, this is an urgent moment. Please try to act with urgency. Please be spending your time working with the City Council to ensure that the proposed amendment clearly conveys the intentions of the people, not projecting your own personal opinions.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Kevin Lewis.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Charter Commission members. This is Kevin Lewis, and I represent BOMA, the Building Owners and Managers Association of Greater Minneapolis at 50 South 6th Street. Clearly, there is a need for police reform, and we all know this is an extraordinarily important time for Minneapolis and all members of the community. Too important to rush through a process that has not included all voices or has received input from all individuals. And we know the details are extraordinarily vague. I ask you not to allow the amendment on the ballot so proper time can be dedicated for a well thought out and constructed process for the best possible results. And we believe Chief Arredondo can help implement these changes. There really is a better way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Allison Tripp.
Hello, this is Allison Tripp.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
I work in Ward 3 downtown, and I live by Ward 13 at the Crosstown 62 and Penn intersection. And I'm calling because I support bringing this to the vote of the entire Minneapolis population to have a right to vote on the charter amendment following a democratic process. Further, we need to follow the community insight of groups like Reclaim the Block that have given good community insight and other groups like them to not only bring this to all the people for a vote, but initiate community groups and fund community safety groups. Right now, Minneapolis has been in the sight of the whole world. In fact, our police killing of George Floyd was so brutal, it sparked international protests against police brutality, and we need to take action to change this.
The next speaker is Lane Brown. Lane Brown. The next speaker is Tony Nwanyi.
Good evening.
Hello, go ahead.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening. Tony Nwanyi, Plymouth and James, Ward 5. I support this proposal because the very police system we have now is crumbling on its very foundation. It's crumbling because they do not value Black life or value Black voice. The camera came to Minneapolis because of George Floyd's death. It's now gone. Do your job and stop sacrificing Black life for those who think this is too rushed? How many more Black lives do we need to sacrifice before you stand up? Let the next news that is coming out be that every one of us, whether you oppose it or support it, have a chance to vote. And the change will bring a light in Minneapolis that
Thank
says
you.
changes started from here.
Thank you.
Black lives. Thank you.
The next speaker is Robin Wansley. Robin Wansley. The next speaker is Noor Nusain.
Hello.
Hello? Who is this, please?
Hello.
Hello? Who is this, please?
This is Anu, and I live in Minneapolis, northeast Minneapolis, nearby Loyola University. I'm supporting the proposal. Obviously, the police is targeting the immigrants and the Black community, and it's not safe, really. We don't feel safe. So I'm supporting this amendment to reform the police system. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Noah Muth, or Muth. Noah Muth, or Muth. The next speaker is Dave Svobodny. Dave Svobodny. The next speaker is John Schmidt. John Schmidt. The next speaker is Beth Papaliski. Beth Papaliski. The next speaker is Jackson O'Brien.
Hello, this is Jackson O'Brien.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Jackson O'Brien. I live at Ward 8, 38th and Park Avenue in the Powderhorn neighborhood. I wanted to address two things to the Council Commission. Number one, there's been a lot of criticism about the proposed amendment not being specific enough. However, I would say that I support this amendment because it is specifically not specific. We do not want specificity in our charter. We want something that is broad and universally understood. Number two is there's a lot of talk about accountability and who the accountability is currently towards the mayor. I would say that there is currently no accountability, as evidenced by Sergeant Kroll blatantly ignoring orders to ban warrior training. Number three, people talking about not enough time. I would like to quote Mr. James Baldwin, who said, it has taken my father's time, it's taken my uncle's time, it's taken my niece and nephew's time. How much time do you need? Thank you. Yield my time.
Thank you. The next speaker.
Hi, this is Beth Papaliski. I couldn't unmute myself. I was the previous speaker.
Okay, well, yes, you may. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I live at 38th and Aldrich, and I oppose putting this amendment to the vote at this time. People are asking for community input, and the city passed a resolution for asking for just that, and that is not dependent on the charter amendment. People also want an engaged process. The city council failed to include the public in the writing of this amendment, and now they have a preconceived notion that their version sufficiently encompasses the will of the people. To better ensure that the public is deeply considered and the process is democratic, community engagement needs to help create a well-conceived plan, and if needed, a well-conceived amendment that goes to a public vote. Right now, we have consensus that we need to re-envision public safety that guarantees dignity and respect for human life. Let's not squander that consensus by worrying about an amendment. Let's get the community process started. Amending the charter now, before we have a plan in place, risks creating a vacuum that leaves our city vulnerable to more crime, which we're already starting to see. Thank you.
The next speaker is Meredith Abbey. Meredith Abbey. The next speaker is Lisa Nillis.
Lisa Nillis, you got it. I live in Longfellow at 41st Avenue South and 42nd Street East. I support the City Council's proposed charter amendment because it prioritizes a non-militarized approach to community safety and violence prevention. We need some police, which the amendment allows for, but we are ill-served and in worst-case scenarios killed when an armed officer responds to every 911 call and traffic violation. The amendment provides the structure that will enable Minneapolis at long last to move away from armed officers as primary providers of community safety. Please allow us to vote on the amendment as written by the Minneapolis City Council.
Thank you. Commissioner Kozak, you inadvertently turn your camera on, so everyone is watching you right now. Thank you. The next speaker is Kim DeFranco. Kim DeFranco. The next speaker is Peter Ireland.
Hi, this is Peter. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. So I live in the Longfellow neighborhood near Lake and Minnehaha, and I just wanted to note at the start, this is the third public hearing the Charter Commission has held on the City Council's amendment, and from the records I've seen, we've had somewhere between 200 and 300 people testifying, and overall, 3/4 or more of the people speaking have voiced support for being allowed to vote on the City Council's Charter amendment in November 2020. So if the purposes of the public hearings was for the Charter Commission to see if there was enough support for the amendment for there to be a public vote, I think you have your answer loud and clear. I know the Charter Commission is probably not used to this level of public scrutiny, but you should realize that we are listening now, and we will recognize the decision not to put the City Council's amendment before voters as obstruction. And this obstruction would call into question the Commission's fairness and indeed its very legitimacy. I'm asking you to do your job and let us vote. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike Rollin. Mike Rollin. Thank you. The next speaker is Akilah Sanders Reed.
Hi, my name is Akilah Sanders Reed, and I live in the central neighborhood near 38th and 5th. The Commission has a duty to accept the Council's legally sound amendment. I know some of us feel like we don't have the perfect answers yet for what comes in place of MPD because we're new to thinking about this, but creating less violent structures for community safety isn't new at all. Black folks and Indigenous folks here in Minneapolis and folks around the world have been studying, designing, and implementing alternatives for decades, and the young Black community leaders of Minneapolis are telling us they can guide a process for community members and for City Council over the next year to create something better. The amendment itself feels to me like a question about trust. It is time to trust the expertise of the Black leaders from Black Visions Collective and reclaim the Black who've organized for this charter amendment and planted seeds for new models of community safety long before George Floyd was murdered. We will never get this moment in history back. Now is the time to ask if we trust the young Black leaders in this city to guide us in a process to create something better, and then for Minneapolis to boldly answer yes in November. This is the first step, not the last. Let us vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Carolee Linden Barrell. Carolee Linden Barrell. next speaker is Marina Kitaka. Marina Kitaka. The next speaker is Barbara Carlson.
Hi, this is Barbara, and I live in the Bryn Mawr area, 10 and Cedar Lake Road. And I first of all like to thank the commission for giving us the opportunity to speak after last meeting, and it was really nice to let us come. I'd like to say that the city council sort of sprung this on people in the city without any conversation or any idea about what this change would look like. And for that reason, I oppose it, because I think that the process is completely backwards. I think we all agree that we need change quite badly, but we also need to have a process where we don't dismantle the police department and have nothing to replace it with. So I don't understand people's idea of wanting to vote for no MPD or a mystery plan, because to me that mystery plan sounds like we could find ourselves in deep water. I think that people should understand that it's important to vote, after they come up with it.
Thank you.
With the plan that they want. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ji Kai. Ji Kai. The next speaker is Kendra Strode.
This is Kendra.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
I'm Kendra Strode, homeowner in Field 46 in Chicago, Ward 8. Thank you, commissioners, for your continued time. I've heard two main arguments against this. A, it's rushed, there's no plan, and B, getting rid of the police is scary and unsafe. To A, when the price we're asked to pay for the status quo was too high, change must happen fast, and that's why we're here. The cost of British rule was too high. We fought a revolution, then came the Constitution, then the amendments. We had to start somewhere. The Charter Amendment is necessary. Realistically, we'll never get real change with the police and the Charter. To B, the Charter change doesn't get rid of the police, it just stops requiring them. Even if well-intentioned, police aren't safe for everybody and reforms don't work. We pay in Black lives for a white sense of security, and that price is unacceptable. As Alucci said, we can't wait, and as Akilah pointed out, we don't have to. Yes, we have to work hard to build a new system, so approve this amendment, put it on the ballot, and let us vote for that change this November.
Thank you. The next speaker is Shandy Mangra. Shandy Mangra. We have 4 speakers left. The next speaker is Dale Holm. Dale Holm. The next speaker is Sarah Fowler. Sarah Fowler. Next is Amy Blumenshine. Amy Blumenshine.
Hello?
Hello, who is this, please?
This is James Riley. I was unable to mute earlier.
Okay, please go ahead. You have 1 minute.
All right, my name is James Riley. I'm a resident of Ward 1 in Minneapolis and own rental property in Wards 1 and 8, which provides the majority of my income. although I agree with MPD obviously needs serious change, I think it is insensitive to many and irresponsible to all the citizens of Minneapolis to change the charter as proposed without informing the citizenry of at least a plan to replace the critical functions and services that may risk the safety of its residents without one. I disagree with the notion that the proposed Community Safety and Violence Prevention Department can function without a law enforcement division. In my life experiences, there's always been the wills of some to go against societal expectations, thus creating the need for law enforcement. City Council members, I strongly urge you to get feedback from your constituents on the following questions. What is your evidence that all Minneapolis residents will be safer without a law enforcement division? And what is the purpose of City Council without a law enforcement division to carry out its will?
Thank you. I think we were on Amy Blumenshine. I don't think we heard from her. Amy Blumenshine. Jeffrey Strand. Jeffrey Strand. Yes, go ahead.
Jeffrey Strand, Shingle Creek North, Minneapolis, Ward 4, 2500 block of 51st Avenue North. I'm completely supportive of major re-engineering of public safety and policing in Minneapolis and support realigning public safety services, since licensed police officers with weapons are not the solution for many community crises. Yet I doubt the City Council's ability to deliver on its promise of robust and inclusive engagement following potential passage in 97 days of its proposed charter amendment to defund and disband the MPD that is consistent with the adopted IAP2 principles of community engagement. The two amendments will be better positioned for an informed electorate on the 2021 ballot with other city elections. I also believe there's insufficient science and successful case implementation to warrant the drastic change without an actual plan and implementation strategy in place. Thank you, Chair Clegg, for extending the time with this additional public hearing and for your sound management of the commission. As a North Minneapolis resident, as I said before, I support comments from Al Flowers and Makima Levy-Armstrong and former Mayor Sharon Belton. Thanks.
Thank you. That completes the list of speakers, but if there is anyone who was on the list who did not unmute or could not unmute in time, who is still on the line, please speak now.
Hello, I was not on the list, but I did wait through previous calls.
I'm sorry, you're not on the list?
No, but I did sign up for previous calls and didn't get to speak.
All right. What's your name, please?
I'm Benjamin Gartner, Ward 12, Keewaydin, 5000 block, 28th Avenue South.
Okay, go ahead.
I support the amendment and I echo the sentiments specifically about trust. I have not heard the commission really grapple with the role you have in restoring shattered trust, specifically to victims of police violence, or the role you might play in making the problem even worse. It's their distrust that drives crime, and we keep asking them to wait, to trust the process, to trust our police, but we won't extend them a shred of trust first. Allowing them to vote will build trust. This is a rare opportunity, and no perfect charter language can force that trust. Hearing the voices of our neighbors during a high turnout election year will build trust. Even if the answer is no, we'll have an answer.
But I wasn't able to unmute. Okay, well, that completes the list of registered speakers, so I will close this public hearing. I want to thank everyone who participated and everyone who spoke or submitted comments. Again, if you'd like to submit written comments, you can email them to councilcomment with no space at minneapolismn.gov. We appreciate your engagement, and with that, we've concluded all the business to come before us tonight. So without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you and good night.